So yeah, my name is Margaret again. Today we're hosting a tour of Metabase for the beginners. So with me today, Luis Paolini. Luis is our customer success engineer. He works very closely with our customers, helps to make them successful, handles a lot of different asks, knows a lot about the product. So Luis is gonna walk us today through Metabase in general, like what it is, how it works, what you need to know when you're getting started, things like that. If you have any questions or if you have any specific things that you would like to learn today, please do leave them in the chat. We will always read all the questions and then answer them, and also try to pay attention to every request that you leave here. Other than that, we are good to go. I will also publish a few polls in the polls tab, so you'll probably see it on the screen. So I think with this we can begin. Luigi, I'm giving the word to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. First of all, we love to answer questions. So grab this time to send us all the questions. Probably we have two types of audiences here. People that probably hasn't started their trial or hasn't used Metabase. And maybe there's people that knows a lot of Metabase and wants to come and get some answers around features and such. So we love to answer questions, and I really will leave most of the time, if possible, for any questions you might have. So anything around the product, the features, roadmap, just send everything you have. I have a little agenda to share with you today, and let me share my screen so I can go over this again. Brief presentation. I'm gonna just cover the topics and then leave some space for questions. Let me share my screen. Here it goes. I'm gonna share the entire screen so you can see. And here it goes. Margaret, is my screen being shared? Yes? No? Do you guys, anyone sees my screen? I can't see the chat. That's why I'm... Is it cool? Yes? No?
Just a second, Luigi. Okay. Yeah, so we're waiting for people to let us know in the chat, and not yet. So let it be like this. Let us know now if you can see this. Should be visible now.
Yep. Okay. I'm gonna go forward.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. So first of all, you might already know what is Metabase. It's the easiest way in which you can get information out of your data, and you can ask questions around your data. You connect first to the database, and then you start interacting with the data either via exploratory analytics, just clicking on the tables and just going through the data, or asking questions, asking something around doing some joins or probably aggregations. I'm gonna cover a few of those in the next couple of minutes. But first, how do you connect Metabase to a database over the internet? So there are two ways in which you can set up Metabase. The first one is you host it. You have probably your own infrastructure, your cloud. Maybe you have a data center. Maybe you don't have nothing and you just want to run Metabase on your computer. Well, Metabase can be run absolutely anywhere where Java runs. So you need to install Java, and then after installing Java, you can run Metabase. You download the jar file and then you run it. There are many things around in our documentation about how to run Metabase, but I'm gonna cover in this specific guide where things located if you run Metabase in our cloud. Metabase has a cloud, and there you can go. Just click on start, and in 5 minutes you will have a Metabase instance running exclusively for you, and you will be able to connect to a data warehouse anywhere that data warehouse is, if that data warehouse is exposed to the internet. I'm gonna also cover if someone needs in this webinar, if someone needs maybe some other specific connection, I can cover that as well. In this brief slide that you're seeing here, you have the Metabase cloud. It's located, at least in the east coast of the US. This slide might be a little bit not updated because last week we launched multi-region. So starting from last week, and again, I'm gonna tick this slide for our next webinar. Starting from last week, now you can go and you can select the region where the Metabase instance will be located. So we have many regions around the world: Latin America, Asia Pacific, Europe, US. I'm forgetting a couple, but you can choose, and then via the internet, you will be able to connect to your data warehouse, any supported data warehouse. But probably you don't want your data warehouse exposed, right? Probably you have not your data warehouse just public, listening to any connection around the internet, but maybe you have that data warehouse connected to, or maybe hosted in a private network, right? So how can you do that? Well, we do support a connection via a bastion host or a jump box, however you want to call it. So Metabase will connect to that SSH tunnel, and from that SSH tunnel, it will jump to your data warehouse. That way to connect to data warehouse is also supported from Metabase. So there are many more. In fact, the demo that I'm going to show you does not have any server in the Metabase cloud. It's running on my machine. So you can see that it can be run absolutely anywhere. Let us go through some of the basics. Again, if you have any other use case or something that you want to cover after this, please let me know in the questions. We're going to cover that in the questions. First of all, we're going to see some of the elements of Metabase, how the entire Metabase instance is and how it's organized. Then we're going to see just a few things around the metadata. It's not named Metabase because of nothing. It's based because all of around the metadata of the data. We're going to see some metadata. Then we're going to do some exploratory analysis of the data, and we are also going to see how to ask a question to the data. We're going to create a dashboard. We're going to put some filters to that dashboard. I'm going to show you a few things around that. We're going to also do some custom behavior, which is, probably we're going to override the behavior of the clicks. Maybe you want to do some dashboards with some interesting ways of, playing with your data. We're also going to cover subscriptions. And if time allows, we're probably also going to do some organization. We're going to see how to organize data in a way that, it can play well with probably, an instance of several thousand questions, several thousand connections. We never forget that Metabase is used across all types of organizations. We have Metabase instances running in startups, in 10 people, 20, 50 people team, and also Metabase runs on public companies like Datadog with several thousand people are using Metabase, and many more. You can see all those use cases in our website. So let me go a little bit to let's there we go. Let's go now to my local instance. You are seeing it now. I'm gonna a little bit zoom so everything's fine. Cool. This is the starting point. This is where Metabase, like whenever you install Metabase and it spins up, either this is on our cloud or self-hosted, you'll see this little guide, so it can go. You can go through it, right? So let's get started. I'm gonna leave the language in English. I'm gonna put some fake data in here to authenticate easier. This data is also gonna be saved in the application database that Metabase has. If you don't know what an application database is, don't worry. Everything is handled by our cloud. Like people that run on our cloud don't need to worry about what is an application database, what is a backup, how to take backups and such. We handle absolutely everything. Now I'm going to add the data. So here there's a menu in which you can select the database that you have, the database you want to connect to, and follow the menu to connect to the database. But I usually recommend everyone that runs Metabase to skip this step altogether. The reason is because some people don't or might not know all the data that Metabase asks you in this specific step, and that like stops you from going and playing with the product. So just skip this step altogether. You can add the database later, and I'm gonna teach you how. I'm gonna remove. I don't want to send anonymous analytics, and then I'm going to um, go to Metabase. Before going to Metabase, never ever forget to subscribe to the Metabase newsletter. This is the only way that we can reach any one of you in case there's something important or there's a new release. So again, if you want to you want to stay, updated about absolutely everything we have, just click on subscribe. You'll be in the Metabase newsletter in case something happens. So this is the main screen. This is the main screen, and it is showing to me already a few things that are really, really smart. So Metabase ships with an embedded database. This means that as soon as you install Metabase or as soon as you have your cloud instance up, that Metabase instance has an embedded database that ships with. So this embedded database is a sample database that can resemble some retail company, right? So people, orders, feedbacks, and accounts and such. So this is like, you can start playing with the data already, or you can go and remove this sample database and add the database that you want. There's no limits in the amount of databases that you can connect Metabase to. That's a question that comes up pretty often. I am running in my machine one of the open source version that like it has a few things. And then we have another version, which is the premium one, which has customizability, like you can change the colors and you can do many more things around how the product behaves. But let's stay in this product, which is the open source version, the free version. So I can go forward. You'll see in the left side what we call the sidebar. The sidebar has all the collections that you can have. A collection is kind of a folder. This is like a folder that it's very special because it's a folder that it gets created for every single user that uses Metabase. So every single user has its own personal folder to save things. Then there's this specific folder also, which we call the root folder. This folder exists. You can hide it if you don't want to, but then you can keep creating new folders to organize your data better. Let's say that you will create a folder for each department of the company. Let's say this is HR. Maybe you want another folder for the people of sales. Let's save this also in the same level. It's a tree structure. And then again, you can start creating questions and dashboards and assign those questions and dashboards to those folders. It's really important that you create folders because all the permissions models of Metabase is based on two things. One is the folders that the users can access, and the second one is the data that the users can access. So creating folders is a very good practice for organizing and assigning permissions to who can see what. Let's go and let's add a new database, because this database, it's an embedded database. Probably you want to add, a database like Postgres or a powerful data warehouse like a Redshift or a BigQuery database. Let's remove this sample database. I'm gonna remove it. Sample database. That's it. I don't have any more that sample database. And I'm gonna add a Postgres database that runs on my machine as well. Like again, here you can connect to any host name, any data warehouse around the world. There are many supported databases. And also in our cloud, we have already drivers that are from our partners. Drivers like Ocean, ClickHouse, Starburst, and many more that you can use already out of the box. if you had if you do self-hosting, you will have to add those drivers to the server that Metabase runs in order to use them. But in the cloud, we make that ready for you. Let's connect to the data warehouse that I have in my local machine. Again, you can connect to any database. Either you have a warehouse or a transactional database. Metabase plays well with absolutely everything. This runs in the 4.2. I'm going to call this Postgres data warehouse just for this demo. The database is sample. This is Metabase, and this is meta sample 1, 2, 3. This container, this database that I have that I use here, it's also available. We are an open source company, so everything is out there ready for you to play and you to use. And there we go. What Metabase is doing right now, and you see that it has been doing something behind the scenes, is not only it has connected to this database, but also it has been through all the tables, all the fields. It has also sampled the fields to know what metadata that field has. If it's a string, if it's a date, if it's a number, probably Metabase already knows absolutely everything of that. It needs to know all of that because that's where the magic happens. When you go and when you create a question and you select a date field, Metabase knows that that date field can be filtered by year, by month, by date, by hour, by minute. If it's a number, it needs to know the mins and the max. It needs to compare the numbers. So everything is around the metadata. And you have that metadata here in table metadata. If you see, I have this Postgres data warehouse. And if I go to, let's go to, for example, the people table. You see here Metabase has been through these fields and has identified that this is in the entity key of the table. It has identified that the email is of type email, probably it's a text underneath. It has also got everything around the descriptions of the fields. So if you like to put comments on the columns of your tables, that is going to be accessible for all your users. Your users will be able to go to the table and scroll, hover over the columns, and Metabase will expose all that metadata so the user can play nicely with that. It knows about the cities. It starts to get, the fields and all the semantics around those fields, right? There are some things that it doesn't get from scratch, like for example, birth date. It couldn't identify that this is a date, but it's as simple as, coming here and saying, this is a date, right? So I'm just modifying the metadata of Metabase. This step is super important, super important, because after this is what Metabase is going to offer you and your users when they want to do exploratory or probably asking questions on any table. So let's go and do some exploratory analytics. Let's exit the admin and come to the browse data. When I click on the browse data, it lets me select the database. And if I have schemas inside, it will also let me select the schemas. So no matter if there are schemas or not, you have here. Maybe if you connect your Postgres to any other database, right? Any data wrappers around, you will see absolutely everything here. It's really interesting to have everything on one place. Let's start by going to the people table. And see, it's showing me the table. Why don't we just, here's the metadata that I told you. If you see, it already told me, it knows that there are 49 distinct values because it did all the sampling. But just go to the question and get a distribution of this column. Boom. This is super cool. What Metabase did was that it identified that the state field is of a type that could be associated to a map. So just by doing that, it automatically suggested me the map visualization without me doing absolutely anything. There are two types of map already loaded in the application. One is the US map and there is a world map. You can change this if you wish. You can add new maps. Absolutely everything is configurable. Well, let's say that I want to change this and I want to see probably a bar chart. Boom. Simple as that. I didn't have to do anything. let's just save this, and let's save this question in the folders of our, let's save it in the sales folder. So you see another folder, not the root folder. It is also asking me if I want to add this to a dashboard. I'm not going to add this to a dashboard by now. I'm going to wait till I ask another question, and then I'm going to add absolutely everything to a dashboard. Let's do another question, but this time, instead of going through the table and then asking a question, let's go here and ask a question from what we call the query builder. So as you saw over here, you can also type and ask questions with SQL. If you're a SQL warrior, you can just come here, write the SQL, and then add that question to a dashboard. We usually don't recommend people jumping straight to SQL if the question can be done via the GUI, because that brings another problem. That again, if you want to know more about it, we can cover that in the questions section. Let's go to the orders table, and let's join the order tables with the people table. Again, Metabase is suggesting me automatically, without me doing nothing, that these two tables are linked between each other. It knows that because of the metadata. Let's do a little, give me all the totals of these orders based on the state where the person is. I just click on visualize, and it already automatically gave me, a state map. But what about if I want to do a pie chart, right? I want to do a pie chart. It's as simple as that. Let's save this question, and now let's go and create the dashboard. I'm going to click on save. I'm going to create a new dashboard, but this dashboard is going to be probably, in the top collection, sales dashboard. Ooh, there we go. I'm going to add this question, and I'm going to also add the second question, which was on the sales collection. I can put these two questions in the same dashboard. There we go. Oops. There it is. I'm going to put some order over here. And if you see out of the box, Metabase will let me just, click on any state or click on any bar, and will let me go and zoom in. Will also suggest me to do probably what we call an X-ray. It's a dashboard of a dashboard that it gets automatically made. That's it. It made the dashboard automatically just for me. It didn't have to do anything. In the state of AA, it just connected everything and gave me this beautiful dashboard, and I didn't have to do nothing. So if you see, all the drilling is available from within the dashboard without me having to do anything. But what about if I want to add more interactivity, or if I want to just override the interactivity of this dashboard? So I can add filters to this. I can add filters. Let's go and add a very, very simple filter, which is just the state that I want to filter by. So you add the filters. I want to create a text or category filters of type is, and I will connect this filter to, whoops, I don't see, sorry, my error. It's not of type is. This filter is of type location. That's the reason, because the filters, again, are connected to the metadata. I always forget that location is not of type text, it's of type location. So if you see here now, it allows me to do state. So I can click on the state. But what about if I also want to connect to the city? I can do filters that are connected between each other. So I can click on also another filter, which is connected to the city. And this is going to be city. I connect this to the city. I can also link these two filters. So city is connected to this one, which is state. I click on city. I link these two filters. And this will allow me to do things like, I want to select, some state over here. And then I also can select the city. There's some city, right? And it will let me to, do the filtering between the state and the city if I want to. But what about if I want to add interactivity in terms of like, I click in any of the states and I want to populate here the state, that the filter is located. So I can add this, override the interactivity of these filters. So let's do that. Let's click on edit, click on click behavior. And once I click this, I want to update a dashboard filter. And this is going to be the state with the state that it's on the chart. I click on done. I can also do the exact same thing in this bar chart over here. When I click on the bar chart, I want to update the dashboard filter state with the state column of the chart. Let's try it out. I click probably on this, and I got this updated. Now I'm going to click on this, and I got this updated, and everything refreshes on the chart. So up to now, I don't know if there are any questions. Please feel free to leave absolutely any questions you have around the product, anything that you've seen here in the questions section. We will be covering that in just a few minutes. I want to tell you two more things that I believe are super, super important when it comes about using Metabase. The first thing that I wanted to cover is subscriptions. So let's say that you want to send this dashboard to some people, probably users of Metabase, or probably not users, people that just want to receive a daily feed or weekly feed, something every couple of hours. They want to receive this dashboard. What you can do is just click on subscriptions, and you can send this via email or via Slack. We have these two connections. So they will receive not only the dashboards with the charts, but also they will receive an attachment if the chart has a lot of data. You can also decide if you want to send the actual data of the chart in that same email. So this is super important. You can share absolutely anything you do in Metabase via email or via Slack to anyone. If people want to come from the email or from Slack to Metabase, they just click on the chart in the email or in the Slack message, and they will come straight to Metabase, and they will continue their analysis of the same dashboard in the way you decide because of the interactivity you make. There's another thing that I haven't covered, which is embeddings. Metabase is super, super, super embeddable on any product. I haven't covered this, but you can enable embedding, and there are three types of ways you can share, via embedding via Metabase embedding. One is public sharing, right? So the first type of sharing is you can just grab the dashboard, you can enable a public link, and you can just give this link to anyone. Just give this link, they will access the dashboard, and you will be able to put this link probably in a screen with an auto refresh, so people just go by those screens and you see the data being refreshed on the cadence that you select. And you can also embed this in another application. There are two types of embedding. One is what we call static embedding. This is you share the dashboard, you put the dashboard in another application, and that dashboard is only accessible by people that access the parent application. This types of embedding is static. It's basically like it's not interactive. The only interactivity that you can put is the filters, like in the same way I did, click filters and such, but nothing more than this. And the second type of embedding is what we call interactive embedding. Interactive embedding brings the entire power of Metabase to your application. So you can make the people that use your product single sign-on straight to Metabase without them knowing that it's a Metabase iframe. And inside that iframe, they can use Metabase and slice and dice their data as much as they want. I'm going to stop here because I want to give some space for the questions and cover absolutely anything that you might want. Again, thank you for the time. Let's open the space now for the questions you have.
Thank you, Luigi. We tried to cover the basics, but please do leave your questions in the chat. So we can also grab them and discuss them here live. So to start with, there is a question. I see one question coming from Louis in the chat. So I'll read it out loud. Aside from joins that increase the number of columns to a dominant table, is there a way to stack two tables, say they have identical columns and data types, to make one large table where only rows number increase?
Good question. So there is no way in the GUI to do things like a union all, statement. Not yet, at least. What I usually recommend any user of Metabase is that all the modeling of the data, again, there is simple modeling and complex modeling. So simple modeling can be covered in Metabase. You can go to Metabase, create a question, then save that question as a model, and from there on, that is going to be, a base for anything that people can come, just click and use that model as a base of any questions. But then there's custom modeling, and very more complex, a union of tables, probably something that it's, very deeply nested CTE that you need to go through, many tables or many SQL that you write before. I usually recommend anyone that needs that to create a view in the database. Like go to the database and create a view. That view is going to be seen by Metabase as a new table. So you won't have absolutely any problems of grabbing that table and doing all the analysis that you need.
Thanks, Luis. Then Caleb asks another question. Are there any plans to make the dashboard grids a bit more personalizable? I find the grid to be limiting with certain visualizations.
Okay. I don't know, Caleb, which version of Metabase you're running or you tested. In the latest version, 47, we increased the dashboard space. So there are more, like the grids. The grid is bigger. So I would suggest that you try the latest version. And if there's something specific, like probably, I'm just thinking, please confirm or just tell me if I'm wrong, that you're thinking about probably numbers or probably like some tables that the visualizations need a minimum amount of sections in the grid to cover. So in the latest version, we not only increased the grid, but also we made some of the visualizations to use less space. So for example, numbers, you can put like smaller numbers now in the dashboards. That is something that we are improving version by version. In fact, right now we are doing a massive rewriting of all the visualizations. You'll see results of that pretty soon. I hope. So again, if there's something specific around, the limitations of the visualizations, please let us know. Let us know. We usually, and this is something that many people don't know, but usually when it comes around all the feedback that the community gives us, or even the customers gives us, we put those we put that feedback on our GitHub issue tracker. We use many things around, how many people requested for something specific, and the context of that in order to prioritize the backlog of the product.
Thank you, Luis. There are more questions coming, but I just wanted to mention to Caleb and also to, there is another question about how I can learn Metabase from zero, because I'm very new to the BI, to this particular BI tool. So to answer those two questions, first of all, if you go to our website, you'll find a Learn section where we try to write about every aspect of the tool, and we kind of split it into different sections, so you can just go from the very beginning to the more advanced level to learn what Metabase is and how it works. But I will also suggest you to visit our events page. Also, you'll find it on our website, and I'll share the link right here. Quite recently, I think maybe 2 months ago, we had an event about how to build dashboards in Metabase. So it was the entire event dedicated to dashboards building, where we went really deep into different aspects and features of it. So, feel free to take a look. It'd probably be helpful to many of you. And there is another question from Zoleka. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. About what is GUI. I don't remember if we mentioned the full name of it, but Luis, if you can explain, please.
Yes, absolutely. So in Metabase, you have two worlds, two very different worlds, how I call it. The world of the GUI question, the GUI, right? I mean, the graphical user interface, the query builder that you saw me, selecting the tables. That is what we call a GUI question, right? It's a question that was built by Metabase, by the query processor of Metabase, because you didn't have to write any SQL. All the SQL was done, entirely by the product, right? That's what we call the GUI building or the GUI question. And then the second world is the SQL world. It's the question that you write entirely with SQL. You write the native SQL. And this is super important because those two worlds can play together, but you need to know the advantages and disadvantages of both. So in Metabase, if you create a GUI question, a question that, again, Metabase builds and Metabase like transpiles, does all the heavy lifting, with that question, then Metabase plays nicely and you'll see all the bells and whistles of the product. When you add, for example, a GUI question to a dashboard, that question will give you all the drill down, all the menus, the breakout by. It will give you all the Metabase magic. But when you add a SQL question, when you type the native SQL and you add that SQL question to the dashboard, then Metabase will render the chart and will do, it will show all those beautiful charts. But as the query wasn't built by the Metabase application, you built it, you typed it, then Metabase cannot offer you all that menu, that contextual menu around, I want to click this and I want to drill down and I want to break out all this value by X and Y and Z. That is the problem with the SQL question. We usually recommend, SQL questions are very powerful. There's people that do absolutely wonders with SQL. I've seen people literally brilliant with the SQL that they type. But you need to know that if you write SQL in Metabase, then you won't be able to offer much of the magic of Metabase to your users. Maybe what you want to offer is just, a static dashboard that people can see every single day, and that's it. And that's fine, and you accomplish your goals. But you need to remember, if you want to give users drill downs and drill throughs and everything, you will need to build the question with the GUI builder, with the question builder that I showed in the product. Just want to make that comment because there's many people that jump straight to SQL. They know how to do SQL, and it's a problem in the long run.
Thanks, Lucia. It's a very detailed answer. I hope it's helpful. There is one last question that I can see in the chat, is about your recommendation of the ideal size of the DB that person can connect to have a good performance.
Good. Usually when it comes about performance, I always suggest that you need to take into account a few things. The first thing that you need to take into account is how big the data is, right? How big the data is. If your data is around a couple of, in the millions of rows, you're probably just good with a very, simple database, like, a Postgres, MySQL, whatever database you feel most comfortable with. This database is, if tuned correctly, if you do the correct cleanups and everything, they perform really, really well. If they are well indexed and such, really, really well, you won't have any problems. Again, a question should run in the let's say the terms of seconds, not more than that. But the problem with those databases is, again, because of the technology that they have, they were built to do transactional data. And please don't take this for granted. There are many things that you can do in Postgres for increasing, and MySQL for increasing the performance, but they were built to do transactional data, and they were built to process transactional data, and they're really good at doing absolutely from insert, deletes, updates, and selects. There are databases that were built just for doing selects, right, and for doing OLAP and analytics. So when you have a problem that Postgres falls short or MySQL falls short, then you'll need to jump to databases that were meant to do analytics. And these databases support in the orders of, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, probably billions of rows, right? And that's when you need to go to things like, things like BigQuery, things like Redshift, things like ClickHouse, things like Oceans, our partners, things like, Trino, which is an absolutely amazing technology that can federate across many databases, data lakes, right? But you need to jump to that bandwagon when the problem is in the order of the tens of millions or probably hundreds of millions or billions of rows. If you have a couple of thousand records and you put that in a Redshift or a BigQuery cluster, then you're throwing lots of money to a problem that is solvable by a Postgres or MySQL. So the thing is, what do you define by the sizing, right? And what's good performance for you? Maybe your users can wait a couple of minutes and they are fine with it, right? Maybe they just need to receive a subscription, and it doesn't matter if they receive a subscription at 8 a.m. or 8:30, right? They can wait for that query to run 30 minutes. So just go around all those details, and once you have a good grasp of this is the size, this is how much the users can wait for the data, pick the right tool for the right job.
Thank you, Luis. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the chat. In the meantime, I just sent a link to the chat. If you could please answer our 2 questions, very small survey about how do you like the event today? Did we cover everything you expected us to cover, or was there any topics that we missed? We would really like to hear your feedback. I think we can give last minute for any last questions you have. And if not, the recording of this event will be sent to everyone, all the registrants. So you'll be able to rewatch it again. And I also recommend again to check our event section on our website, because we are hosting many different kind of events. Most of them are about Metabase. More deep knowledge about different aspects of the tool. So, we are welcoming you to join those events too. Okay, I think that's it. I think we answered most of the questions, and we actually stayed for almost 50 minutes, which is quite long, which is nice. So thank you very much, Luis, for doing a demo and presenting. Thank you everyone who joined today. Sorry for some of the technical issues in the beginning. We are testing out the software first time. It was exciting to talk to you. And if you want to rejoin, come back in 2 weeks. We're going to have another tour of Metabase. And you're welcome to invite your colleagues or friends too, if they are interested.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.